totally.
I like it though. I like it. The mood is light. I dig it.
Let's piece these broken pieces together.
All right, episode 9. Welcome everyone to Phumblepodcast, episode 9. I have a good friend of mine here today. We became friends through my work, if I can be honest. I was actually teaching piano to this person's daughter and his wife, and that's how we met. And eventually, it turned from lessons to his wife and his daughter to basically him and I working on piano together for better half of almost 2 years. But more importantly than that, we've flourished into this relationship has flourished into a solid friendship. And that hot tub you guys always see in my garage, that's thanks to this man. So my guest today is none other than Scott. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. So I wanted you on because I admire your work ethic. We've had many discussions on projects you've been involved in, whether it's home improvement, whether it's other homes, whether it's just even your line of work, everything that you bring up. It's always go, you know, no rest for the weary. And it was truly inspiring. And I like to think I follow that same method to life, but you definitely reminded me of precision and the attention to detail you put in. For example, you're adding a whole pool to your house, hence why you gave me that hot tub. On to better things for you. You labeled yourself as weekend warrior. I label you as the furthest thing from lazy. So that's what we want to talk about today, man. Laziness. And is it are we born with it? What's the process of fighting laziness and what it takes? And I want to dig into your life, and I want to hear all about how you went from little Scott to current Scott, and and how you made those choices that has led you to today. So tell me, first of all, man, what do you think of where you at currently as far as this pool project?
You know, we're waiting for some permits, and I get reminded from the 12-year-old every day as a check-in. You know, is it done yet? Is it done yet? You know, so it's definitely motivating. But you know, I think a side comment on here too is that you know, Pej, you and I, we have some really highly dynamic conversations where you know there's so many moving parts, and what the comedic like a comedic delivery on the conversations usually is that we'll start with a serious topic and then it'll branch out into multiple, but then continuously through the conversation we're looping back to the original topic and its relevancy to the branches. And I think you and I actually we enjoy that. So there was I think there's a common you know, like interest as far as like communication and like storytelling. One of the things with me is that I love design, and I always have. It's part of my work and my career, as well as my desire to, you know, hey, I want to buy a fixer upper, or you know, get something that someone didn't take care of, and I want to make it new again, or make it in my own way, something I like. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm sure there's, you know, situations where I might take it a little too far to get it just right in my mind. But with the pool, we started talking about the design and how much surface area is going to be exposed to the sun, and how much volume of water we're going to have to pump into it to keep it warm and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's interesting, and I'm a fortunate person to be in a situation where hey, let's do some remodeling here, because sometimes this stuff is definitely costly, but it's I think as we navigated COVID, it was like, we're getting sort of like cabin fever here, and we want to just bring it outside, right?
Is that
So
the
it'll be,
motivator? Was that the motivator to
yeah,
get this thing going? And you had a pool, right? You already
yeah,
had one. You already had a pool at the property you live at,
we
and
did.
then you also had the hot tub. You got rid of the hot tub,
Hmm.
um,
But we wanted to move the pool 6 inches.
okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No,
Imagine that. But the funny part is, I'd believe that, like, because
no,
you're so precise with your
no.
shit. I would be like, yeah, he's there must be some
No.
mad reason why you're doing it. But no,
Now
you wanted to upgrade the pool, right? So
well, yeah, the pool was leaking. It had a plumbing issue. It had some cracks in it that had to be seismic. There was some seismic damage to the pool. There was a pool plaster formula that they used to pour back in the 80s that had some chemical remnants in it that we wanted to abate from the property. And so with that, it came a big master plan as far as everyone has a swimming pool, but what makes things special? And again, when I walked you through what we were doing, you thought it was pretty interesting on it, but definitely a lot of thought, and
yeah,
it'll look good. Maybe we can
there's
share a picture in the future.
absolutely, man. There's such a science to it that I was so ignorant about, and you educated me on that, and it's anyway. This episode isn't meant to be just about the pool, but as one example of the dedication that you put into the projects, right?
Hmm. Well, I
Uh,
think I think a good tie-in could be is one can be lazy by the pool, right? Or
that's right.
yeah,
Well, it's funny because, and that's something I want to get into. And by the way, I'm wearing my Kobe sweatshirt today. Is that he's a great
right.
example of someone who wasn't lazy. God bless
Yeah,
his soul.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mad love, mad love.
yeah, man, that guy, he literally like mentally brought whatever he wanted from the world into his being. Like
Yeah,
whatever he wanted to bring to reality, he made happen, and there was no quit in him.
yeah. He's
Uh,
goat.
oh, great, absolutely. So, but what I was going to say is, I think as human beings, one thing we do is and evolution can kind of uh, confirm this. We've started from wherever uh, the the audience believes humanity started from, whether we look at the religious route or we look at the scientific route, whatever route we want to take, we started somewhere, right? And then
Hmm.
from that point forward, we've made all these advancements, right? Industrial, educational, even clothing, right? Whatever, like every little thing that
Hmm.
humanity has improved on
Yeah.
is it takes effort, and it took a lot of precision. It took a lot of most likely failing, most likely mistakes, and having to endure all of that to get us to where we are today. And we're far from a perfect being as a humanity, as obviously you just turn on the news, you can see that. But
Yeah, I think we were talking about that, where I mentioned to you that I heard someone speaking and they said something interesting about it took mankind 2 million years
yeah,
to double mankind's life expectancy.
yeah, that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Elaborate on that, man. That's I mean, we if we elaborate on that, just the idea of 2 million years of mistakes, essentially, or 2 million years of of learning from you
I don't know,
know.
but I don't know what mistakes. I mean, there's a lot of technical evolution, humankind evolution.
Sure, sure.
This before that, before this, before that. There's a lot of progression in there.
I should specify. I guess I'm following the medical technology, right?
Sure,
I'm
sure,
specifically focusing on that.
yeah,
But it's true, and then there's nothing wrong with. I mean, we can't even blame ourselves for it, right? Because it is with the, you don't know what you don't know, right? There's a saying that we always stick with. It's like it's that whole analogy of, it's not even an analogy, it's an actual video online that, um it's floating around. There's a baby in India, right? In the country of India. They put that baby, in the village that they live in. A cobra, right, rolls up to this baby, and it gets into attack mode. But the baby doesn't know that a snake is lethal, or specifically a cobra, a spitting cobra, that is. So because of that, there is no fear. So what happens is this baby is just playing with this thing like it's a rubber toy.
yeah,
But the amazing thing is that snake doesn't attack it.
mm,
So it's just a simple example of fear is taught, right? It's something that is learned. Um, and the reason I bring that up is because of that law of attraction, which I believe in, that kid didn't, that baby infant didn't even think about the idea of this thing hurting him. So what happened as a result is the snake didn't feel it, didn't feel, uh, didn't sense the fear in the kid, which they always say, right? Snakes sense fear. And because the kid baby didn't fear the snake was not dangerous to the kid. So which one? So does that lead us to think that, if we just kind of tame our fears, and understand that fear is taught, we can achieve so much more than we actually set out to do most of the time. What do you think of that?
well, I think that there's naivety in the infant, because the infant is not aware, right? And there's that innocence of not being aware doesn't kick off a reaction, a chain reaction, a cause and effect, where the effect would be that the cobra would strike.
Yeah.
I think that um, you know overcoming fears, people are people are fearful.
Uh-huh.
I'll say something like, I hope not, that's not controversial. I think a lot of modern Christianity beliefs are based on living in fear of damnation, or living in fear of consequences of pissing off someone in a more superior seat. I think that there is strength in overcoming fears, pulling it away from the religion comment.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that, overcoming fears, that's like, I think that's one of the greatest movie archetypals of this in the movies. Karate Kid, overcome your fears, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Eye of the Tiger, like, all of it.
It's
Yeah.
true. And by the way, coming from another background, I want to get into your upbringing and how, what kind of household you were raised in and all that.
Sure.
But that doesn't, what you mentioned isn't just reserved for Christianity. I mean, most religions
Hmm.
share that, right? And I
Hmm.
came from a different religious background, Baha'i religious background. They all, to a degree, uh, teach that, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I actually stand corrected. I said, I might have said modern Christianity. I want to say like religion. Period. Like,
Religion, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And for better or for worse, we're not debating whether it's right or
No.
wrong. We're just debating the idea of fear, and and
Yeah.
um and whether it is, whether we are able to tame it, or control
Hmm.
that urge. And it
What
leads into many other aspects of human mind. But
what
yeah.
what are people get when are people fearful? when there's an unknown, or they anticipate the consequences not in their favor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
So that comes from expectations, right? That comes from over time we've learned to expect things, um, because we've seen past generations do it a certain way, whether it worked or not,
hmm,
and we've learned. I mean, we copy ourselves, right? We to a certain degree until we reach our adult mind and reach our independent thinking. Um, we it's easy to lean on past experiences, right?
hmm,
Now, and however we view it, right? And that past experience could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. But um, that is the that is, I think, one of the strengths, but also one of the weaknesses of humanity. I think is we have the ability to uh, think and assess situations, but I think biases and experiences
hmm.
lean us or lead us one way or the other.
you know um I think that I I I I have a lot of admiration for people who are introspective, people who can learn from their mistakes. um I try to be that. um I try to practice this. I try to be self-aware. um yeah, there's definitely there's definitely a lot there.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah, absolutely. So your childhood, man. Where were you? Where are you from? Where were you raised?
Yeah,
What were the dynamics in the household?
yeah. I was raised blue collar family,
Mm,
and my my dad was the first in the family to go to college and actually became a software engineer when I was a young age, and that actually got me start interested in computers.
mm,
Um, my my mom worked at the phone company and was an operator for years. Um, and my dad had a computer at home, and that actually spurred my interest in working with a computer. And I believe that was like the foundation set for what made me interested in working with computers, and it springboarded my career path. um, it wasn't always a straight path, but I had a lot of fun, and there was a lot of intrigue with the computer with me. So
I gotta say, you're what what uh what years are we talking here when your dad was working on computers?
um, like early mid 70s.
So that's a testament to your father. He was, I feel, ahead of his time,
Yeah.
and that in the '70s was, thinking that progressively and seeing the worth in computers and what were to come of the computer industry. I mean, this is before Steve Jobs and all that, but I mean, that's great. That's great, and what a good influence to have for a son, to follow that passion. Of course, again, you didn't have to, you chose to,
Mhm.
uh, you know,
Well,
but
yeah, honestly, I don't know if I was that sentimental about it. I don't know if I did it as much as to please dad, but
yeah,
I I think I did it because I was interested in it. Before there were video games that looked like today's video games,
yeah,
there were video games that were in some points just text based, right? And
yeah,
and narrative driven, story driven and whatnot. And it's um, I worked in an area where I had to program a computer, learn how to program a computer to do what I wanted it to do, and then that just progressed, and I got better and better. Sort of like some form of martial art, or
yeah,
like exercise, or someone's basketball game, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, practice makes perfect, and I developed a set of skills that you know turned out to be pretty valuable in the industries I've worked in the past. And along the way, I've been you know fortunate enough to have invented multiple things in the areas of technology with
Yeah.
computers, and my career and my livelihood is based on working with technology. So I'm very thankful for that and that opportunity that I stumbled upon. Um, and you know, um, I think about that regularly. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though. I mean, it's cool that you pursued that and you've made it a successful career as a result. Your upbringing, though, you said was blue collar. Um, are you the only kid? Do you have siblings? How was the household in that sense?
Um, I'm the middle of three. I have an older brother, and my parents adopted a daughter. So there's my brother and I, and we're about 7.5 years apart.
Hmm.
And my parents are both Caucasian. My mom's from the East Coast. My dad's from the Midwest. Two white kids, my brother and I,
Yeah.
7 years apart, which was big. That's a big gap.
Yeah.
And then my parents adopted a Korean daughter. And so,
Wow.
and this is basically someone who was an infant that was abandoned in a park in Korea, that through an adoption agency and service connected my parents as willing adoptees. And I remember in '75 driving to LAX, and we met at an international terminal, and someone came off the plane and gave my parents this baby girl. And
Wow.
yeah, and all the name tags and everything were in Korean, and the baby had a Korean name, so we all had a part in naming the baby. Um,
Wow.
the name we came up with was April because she was adopted in the month April,
Okay.
and
Oh,
yeah,
this is fun.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and we developed a. There's a little story here. We developed a very keen friendship, brother sister relationship, and I got really protective over her. And I was just talking to my wife about this, with all the terrible acts of violence that are occurring, in the black community as well as the Asian community now, the
Right.
AAPI community. I was speaking the other day in an event, and I told a story that I haven't told before, where I remember, so hearing all the acts of violence against the Asian community.
Mhm.
I remembered, I had flashbacks to, my parents lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, and my brother and I, like, everyone's white, and then there's this adopted Korean daughter. And I remember the comments that people would say. My sister and I went to the same school for a while because of our age difference, which was very close comparatively to my brother. But then the comments, you had mean kids, but you also had like probably mean or uneducated, disconnected parents, which in today's society would be absolutely unacceptable, right? So, why are her eyes like that? Or why does she sound like that? Why does she not pronounce words correctly? Or, making, you know, um, sound effects that are like disrespectful with different cultures, and it's been, that was emotional for me then, because I would be, like,
Yeah.
kind of like defensive older brother. But in this day and age now, where my sister and I are very tight, here X amount of decades later, but seeing all this, it's just like another version, but even more violent now.
Oh man. Yeah, that's tough. I can. It's amazing that you were as a kid. Um, how old were you when you guys adopted her? Because you
Yeah.
remember it vividly. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So I was 3 when my parents adopted my
Wow.
sister. However, you know, yeah, so 3. I'm sorry, I was just double checking my facts. So yeah, I was 3. And so, when I was in kindergarten, she was 2. When I was in first grade, she was 3.
Yeah,
And then it got to the point where, you know, yeah, we were always a couple years apart.
that's great, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But
yeah,
anyway, I just to close off on that though, but the racial violence has got to stop. Like, just that's the pin in it, because that would be multiple conversations, but
yeah, yeah.
it's not tolerant. All of us have to represent each other and have each other's back, and just cut the crap. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's. I mean, I post about these things every day on my social media and about, you know, I think we get lost in these narratives that are given by either corrupt corporations or even corrupt governments. Um, they kind of throw these baits onto the internet or onto the news. The news is a whole other bag of worms because
That
they're
might be
all
another. That
yeah
might be another show too.
that's right, that's right. Well, the reason I'm mentioning all this is because, and this will tie into laziness. It takes a lot of effort at times, right? It takes a lot of effort to just simplify things and to just think, forget everything that all the BS that I'm seeing on the computer about this and that, and all of these left and right media trying to influence the mind. If we forget about all of that and simplify it, and this is where it really, feel it takes a lot of effort to just simplify it. But once you simplify it, it's not hard anymore. And and the simplicity is that we're all humans first, right? So it's like when we just think of it at that level, at that very basic level, okay? We were all born somewhere,
Yeah.
right? We all were born to a set of parents, whether that set of parents ended up being in our lives or not. That's a different branch off of that. However, we were all born, and I don't think there might be a small group of humanity that wants to debate that, but um, majority of humans will agree to that because
Yeah.
we all have a story. You just shared it.
Yeah.
You were born somewhere. I was born in Iran, but we were both born, and that's the bottom line. Doesn't matter
So
where, right?
yes, yeah. No, yeah. Listen, I love your point, and it's something I've learned also is that you're culturally rich, right? Um, you're woke in a number of areas, right? As a compliment, right? You're an international man of mystery, right? You're from you're from the east.
Far East.
So far east. You hail from the east. Yeah, not East Coast, West Coast, but no, you're from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
east. Yeah. And but the thing I was going to bring up is with different cultures, right? So um, my wife is half black, half Chinese, and
Okay.
my wife, we had a conversation where I was asking her, how does she represent? And the reason I asked this is that her father, who was a father figure and a military strongman, was black,
Mm.
and her mother, who emigrated and fled communist regime in China to Taiwan to the United States, is like OG Chinese. So her mom is Chinese and English is a second language. So
Mhm, mhm.
um, my wife and I were talking about race and representation, and she, as a modern black woman, she represents as a modern black woman. People judge her on that, her
Mhm,
appearance and whatnot.
mhm.
However, culturally, she was brought up as a traditional Chinese daughter. And the reason to tie this all in is, and what I was referencing about race in your comment earlier, is that you were saying we're all born. However, there's a lot of ignorance out there, and I remember I saw a movie that a lot of us know, maybe in the 90s, Forrest Gump, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, stupid is, stupid does. That was a
Yeah.
comment, right?
Yeah.
And basically, that's a pretty simple. That's a super simplified breakdown of like. So, my wife, who like was brought up and raised with all these rich Chinese cultures, a lot of respect to elders, a lot of respect to hierarchy, a lot of respect to the family first, and parents give to their kids as an investment to make sure that they have a good footing to start their life in the right direction. And from our conversations, there's a lot of similarities with your upbringing as well. I don't know if that's entirely the Western way. And also the Western way, like in America, if you get down to certain like demographics or even sociological like breakdowns, like middle class white, my mom would yell at me, get a job, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, or, hey, I had to earn my own money for my car. I moved out with my own savings. I had to
Yeah.
do everything, right? Pay for my own school.
Right.
But I don't see that with other cultures. So I think for us, also in this age of reflection, it should be where we're seeing all these unacceptable acts out there. Is that we are all the same, and
Yeah.
we're here together. And what the hell happened to community, and what happened to this? Why is there even fools out there on racial superiority conflicts of it's pedestals? It needs to go.
It's yeah, you bring a good point, because you're right. In the West, or let's just focus on the USA, United States, it's there is social bias, and unfortunately, and again, it affects livelihoods, it affects jobs, and in real bad cases that we're seeing a lot, it's affecting lives, it's
Hmm.
affecting literal mortalities. um
There should be bigger things to worry about, right?
yeah, yeah, but
I say that loaded, right? I mean,
right,
like we're fighting a pandemic. The pandemic does not see color lines, right?
exactly.
Right,
But
but
it's a great
unfortunately,
reminder, it's a great reminder.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, poverty and violence are seeing color lines right now, and that's where people are pissed, right?
You know what's sad is that this whole pandemic, not it didn't just shut down a lot of jobs, right? It shut down everything. It literally shut down the good and the bad. It shut down these crazy shootings for a good chunk of time. You weren't hearing about shootings as a result of this COVID, because everything was closed. There were no places to assemble, right? So
People
no,
didn't go out. People didn't go out and shoot.
but that's crazy to me. Like, you would think when you're sitting at home and you're in quarantine, or when you're on a stay-at-home order, depending on the state you're in, it's like you would think you can start to think about it and then reflect, and have a moment of potential growth in thinking.
Hmm.
But look what happened. States numbers are starting to go down. They're starting to open back up, and right away you're getting these shootings again, and you're getting these hate crimes coming right back. It's just like it's so funny. It's sad, but it's also funny to me that these guys, these people who are committing these horrible acts, are aware enough to say, okay, oh, I shouldn't be going out to, but then it's like, oh, okay, now we can go back, let me resume what I wanted to do.
Well,
It's
it's complicated.
it is complicated, yeah.
Here we went on going back in time, because this did not, the topics you mentioned didn't just spring up overnight, right?
No.
So you know during and before COVID, we had a very divided America as far as politics.
Yeah.
With that, there's the loud and proud movements that are out there where, people thought it was okay to, fly some inappropriate flags, or say some inappropriate things, or express themselves for how they truly feel and label themselves as patriots. That didn't go away. I think you and I had a wonderful conversation, Pej, that one day where we were talking about the reality, the stark reality of it is that I think you had a show on this too, it's like half of America
Yeah.
voted for the other guy.
Right.
And that's still alive and well. And I think that also derivatively is there's some linking to what we're seeing. COVID or not,
Yeah.
COVID, now we get like, stir crazy cabin fever and
Okay.
people go out and they're popping off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're really pissed. They were pissed before, but now they're pissed. They're pissed they lost the election. Now they're really pissed. So
it's true. But so again, because it is all related. We're not trying to be cute about this. It is all related as far as laziness, I would say.
Yeah, let's talk about laziness. I mean,
no, but this is a great topic in relation to that. And the reason I say that is this. And let me know if you disagree. Whether right or left, any experiences we go through, anything we're taught, right? It's a fragile thing because emotions get involved.
mm-hmm.
And when emotions get involved, 9 times out of 10, we're going to not make the wisest decision.
Sure.
Right? It's possible. It's very unlikely that we're going to make the best decision when we're emotional. I've done it myself, and it's part of human nature. However, this idea of laziness in thought, laziness in activity, laziness, whether it's physical, mental, the whole nine, everything relating to it. Do you think that it comes from just your experiences and what you were taught, or do you reach a point where you have to make that decision and you get to notice whether what you're doing is wrong versus right? And yeah, what's your views on that?
Just on the top of your lazy, you're not calling me lazy, but you're saying what are these questions about laziness and where does it come from?
Well, laziness in the sense of like even decision making, right? Because it's all. I think if we actually put in the effort, as I mentioned earlier, politics aside, right? Social abnormalities aside, as human beings, again, I'm trying to simplify it because we can easily say if because of this, and this, I'm going to go left. Because of this and this, I'm going to go right. But forget this, and this for a minute, and just think it's a white canvas, right? It's a clear canvas, and there's nothing to influence us to go left or right. Would you think that would you say that because of those experiences, right? If we put those aside, are we able then to think more clearly and think with more love and unity for humanity?
Yeah, we should. But I don't know if it's a level playing field because I think there's the ability. So human beings by instinct, by nature, by genetics are emotional creatures.
Sure.
And there's also self-control and awareness that some people might just be ignorance and feel that ignorance is bliss, right? Hey, they might not be aware they're emotional. That's just how they were raised. That's their surroundings, their behavior. It's gotten them to where they're at. Maybe they don't recognize where they're at is where they want to be. They just feel like maybe victimized or whatnot, or like this is where society has put me and whatnot. However, it's almost like, hey, look in the mirror. One of those like just direct comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if laziness is necessarily bad. So this is controversial, right? So,
okay.
Merriam-Webster, the dictionary, right? If you look up work is defined as effort over time.
Okay.
And just simple math, effort over time. If you look up lazy, lazy is disinclined to activity or exertion. And so, okay, so you're disinclined to do an activity. Hey, do you want to run a mile with me? No. So there, without the judgments, there could be more involved, right?
Right, right.
Um, but you know, um, lazy people could possibly be highly efficient. Like, hey, and
Absolutely.
I'm just being comical here, but in the state of like thought, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so someone could say, "Hey, you're lazy," like as an accusation, but
Uh-huh.
the lazy person could be like, "Yeah, well, I really figured it out." Like lazy
Yeah.
people could be highly efficient. Let's say like napping, right? Lazy
Uh-huh.
people, let's say they nap.
Yeah.
And if you nap, nap is like some, like if you're stressed out or you need some sleep or you want to get your mind off something, someone might want to nap, but the lazy person's already figured it out, right? Or um, maybe smart people like to be lazy because they want to get something done with the fewest amount of metrics, right? Of
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
hey, like, hey, do your chores, and the kid's like this, really. But then the kid does them, and they basically took maybe 50% of the steps out that you would do. Not
Yeah.
that you're not judging the end result. At
Right.
least it got done definitively, but that could be another conversation, right?
No, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you
So
know,
it's as far as I mean, I see that. I see that um we can label napping as I mean, it can be defined as
sure.
laziness, but it really, listen, I come from a culture that for the record, I don't nap. I don't like to nap. If I'm afforded the
Uh,
time, or if I have the mental time to nap, if I give myself that break, um
I'm not a
30,
napper either.
yeah, 30
Yeah.
minutes at best, right?
Yeah.
30 minutes at best, if I can
Hmm.
do it.
Hmm.
Um
Well, they
anyway,
say they say like Einstein never slept a whole night of sleep in his life. He did these cat naps like every now and then, and
yeah,
he was like highly productive and a patent machine, right? He just invented a whole bunch of cool stuff.
exactly. Now that you're looking at, yeah, Einstein being the inventor and
Mhm.
as far as a scientist, and then we talked about Kobe. He didn't nap. He didn't sleep much.
Yeah.
He was doing 3 a days his entire career, right?
Wow.
3 a days his entire career. 4 a.m., 12 p.m., 8 p.m.
Wow.
repeat every day, and he did that. And I mean, but again, it takes a certain. At some point, do you say, is it innate, or is it a choice, or is it a mentality,
Hmm.
right? Like, is it discipline? That's why this whole topic was riveting, and I wanted us to talk
Yeah.
about it here,
Yeah.
because
Well,
yeah,
motivation's huge, man. Like, I was gonna go on and say like a couple other things. Like, we've heard the term Sunday fun day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so there could be some laziness involved there, or or maybe hey, when you're lazy, you're not doing anything, and when you're not doing anything, let's see what happens there. Like, it might improve your sleep if you're not doing anything. It might decrease your pain. It might reduce your anxiety. It might lower your blood pressure. Who knows? But
Absolutely.
but as far as like, you know, I do believe that, you know, so so we all are accountable, right? And so if someone is lazy and they're not accountable, then that might be a dilemma, right? Not only for the person at hand or subject matter in this conversation, but maybe for the persons around, the people around them. If someone marries someone who's lazy,
Yeah.
or someone has a friend that that lazy friend, right? Or that, I don't know, we could put any story to it, but
Yeah.
um, I think there could be some mental health concerns around lazy, or there
100%.
there could be some selfishness, like and selfishness. I know there's another train of selfishness, like the Ayn Rand, novelist, like selfism, which is like some people believe in objectivism, that selfish could be a good thing, but
Mhm.
some people who are selfish and say, hey, I want to be lazy, I'll let someone else do it. I'll just catch two birds with one stone by just dragging.
But
You know,
but you
yeah,
can argue that selfishness can be the other side. People who are super driven, people who are
hmm,
super successful on top of the world, right?
yeah,
As far as an athlete like Kobe Bryant,
hmm,
you have to know that him dedicating 20 years like that couldn't have
Mhm.
been easy on his wife and his kids, right?
That that is true. But I think, with anyone like driven and whatnot, you know, there's sides of this, like balance, right?
Yeah,
So, um, you know, so Kobe was a family man, but in the NBA schedule, you play a lot of basketball games.
yeah. And
So,
that's just the games, not we're
yeah,
not talking about the preparation.
you're right. And so,
Yeah,
so I don't know how much time at home there was, right? And
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
and
that's a sacrifice. That's a real sacrifice from the family, right? And
oh,
that it takes so much to keep that um consistently every day, day in,
yeah,
day out. And that Kobe is just one of the prime examples, you know. There's many.
yeah.
Einstein was not we would consider him not lazy. But are there people who we would look without much research, right? And we could categorize them as lazy. And then we look into their lives and we see, oh wow, this guy is actually super successful, right? I mean, it depends on how we look at laziness. I think um, it's a subjective thing, right? It's I could be doing things right now that my wife could look at and say, oh, that's laziness, right? But in my mind, I'm not looking at it as laziness, right? And I'm looking at it as it's a reset time. It's a reset time to get back at it. You see what I'm saying? Like it could be perspective. So this thing can get really. I think we're looking at the more obvious and
Hmm.
broader definition of laziness, and you defined it from the Webster Dictionary. But um,
Well,
and more, yeah,
I was just going to add to that though. We have to be careful too because we're throwing out labels, right? But
yeah,
so it is possible for someone, wearing multiple hats, right, like we all do, to,
yeah,
maybe be lazy in an occurrence or one iteration, right? Hey,
yeah.
I'm not feeling like cooking tonight. Doesn't mean you're lazy, right?
No,
Or
right,
yeah,
yeah.
or you didn't do something that maybe you should have. Are you lazy? Maybe you're just lazy on that. So.
So is laziness something that's uh, retrospective ultimately, or is it something? It's we're not use. I want to clarify that this whole topic wasn't intended to be used to categorize people, right? That's not the point of it. That I think I was more interested in understanding the behaviors and the motivations and upbringings of youth in the specifically, and then um, I had some things I think that I can relate to with you, but um, I think we can define laziness differently depending on who you ask, and that's a whole other story. What I wanted to really get into is what makes you driven and motivated and basically not that mentality of not taking a no for an answer, right?
Hmm.
When you have a vision, and I think you've mentioned this before to me during our classes, but you love design, and I
Hmm.
is that is that the root of it, or is that is that what you would say starts it all for you as far as
No. Well, I'm
invention?
curious. No, I appreciate that. I'm curious.
Okay.
I'm curious. I think what motivates me is self mastery and growth. I'm, you know, I like, I like, I like reaching out to others. I like having conversations. I like learning from others' experiences.
Yeah.
All of our experiences are so dynamic, but there is alignments. Like um, we've all taken different paths,
Yeah.
but the experiences we've had down the line as far as our destination have varied.
Yeah.
And for me, I was raised at I think one of the messages from my dad is, hard work pays off. And
Yeah.
so, I don't know. I've never been the, you know, and for me, like I could take hard work and put smart work in there too, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
I
I'm
was gonna
not,
say, yeah,
because there's a whole dilemma of like, well, work hard or work smart, right? Well, to me, I want to put them together because I'm not going to build an addition to a house unless I have a blueprint, right?
right,
So
right, right.
or I'm not going to make a direction that could affect like um uh that could expose the family to liabilities, um unless it's really thought out, or it's planned. um, yeah, so I think for me is that I'm on this quest for, like never ending pursuit of learning and experiencing other people, and experiencing you know you know conversation, and also making change, like I work on my place because I want to make it better for my family so we can enjoy that.
Yeah,
But like even going back to community and society, like everyone can make a change, right? And you know like with this racial inequality that we were talking about earlier, it's like it takes people to make those changes, and I don't think that's a topic to be lazy on, right? I don't,
yeah,
if someone doesn't want to fix their house up, hey, don't
yeah,
fix don't fix up
yeah,
your house.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too is I might be a little bit frugal on that, where, I get a quote of like, it costs that much to do what? I'm going to
Yeah.
learn how to do it. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got the internet, I'm going to figure it out.
Do you associate that to your blue collar upbringing?
Yeah, I think so. Like, my dad was a penny pitcher, and my mom was a coupon queen. Like, always
Yeah, yeah.
clipping those coupons, and
I
and
relate, man. I
yeah, and
100% relate.
yeah, and it adds up. Like, hey, when I was getting close to 16, hey, I want to drive. Well, you're not. Or you need to. You need to. My family was never soft on the letdowns or the
Yeah.
the
Tough love.
wording.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely tough love. But
Yeah.
so basically, if you want something, you got to work and earn it, so you appreciate it, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I do have to admit, it took me a while to get there. But when I was younger, I was probably, a little more non-refined, a little more full of piss and vinegar. Like the adults haven't figured it out yet. Now there's me, and
Did you pay for that type of thinking?
yeah, yeah, multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple times. Maybe in another conversation, um, I was a hacker. I got in trouble with the law a couple times.
Okay.
Um, that actually kickstarted my career in one way or another in different
Oh,
areas.
yeah.
I also, I think when I was younger, I might have been a little more, this is a little personal, but I might have been a little more calloused, or a little more, not refined with friendships and relationships that could have been more lifelong.
Mm,
While I am friends with people I've known from a very young age, I'm not friends with everyone. And I think now in hindsight, it's like, it takes two to tango. And,
I see.
I could have came to the table a little more delicately and at different times.
I got you, man. I got you. But it takes that humility to recognize that too, right? So it's
Yeah.
a lot of people in your shoes may not, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting though. I relate to you with the upbringing though. I mean, and you said you paid for that um type of thinking when you were younger, or that way of thinking. As did I. I mean, I was careless in high school. I didn't really have a plan, and my parents they had to smuggle out of Iran to come here.
Yeah.
It wasn't your normal story of just oh, apply for a visa, boom, next thing you know, you're in the United States. It was the furthest from that, and the leading factor for that was religion, and it was the fact that my parents and myself and my sister, which is also 7 years older than me, so I relate with you with your brother being older by a good amount. Um, we didn't we weren't in the Muslim religion, which is the basically the operating religion of that country, right? It's called Islamic Republic of Iran now. They literally changed the name to that, and we were raised in the Baha'i religion, and not to get into the religion, but the point being is um, similar to the 1940s for the Jewish community in Germany. Um, it was I could compare it to that with the Baha'is in Iran, and um, and they literally do imprison. I think I can't remember what the term is for the crime, quote unquote, of being a Baha'i in Iran. Um, if you're active as a Baha'i over there, it's basically considered a crime, and you're anti-government and you are against the country, and um, they draw up this crime on you to arrest you and throw you in jail. Now, I was young when I left Iran. However, my mother, she was only, I mean, she was in prison for a whole year before she had me. She was married to my father, and they had my sister. And at the age of 3, they actually arrested my mom and my grandmother, her mother, together, and imprisoned them for an entire year. Um, at which point, the torture stories that she's told me about how they would torture her and my grandmother with the sole purpose of getting them to recant recant their faith in their beliefs, and uh, admit to turning away from that religion. So these stories, me not even having dealt with any of that, but my dad also having a successful business that the government shut down 3 different times as soon as he was reaching the height. So imagine you get this appliance store. My dad's been a handyman his whole life. He has this appliance store, gets it to heights to the point where the government recognizes that the owner is a Baha'i. Boom, shut down. You can't operate. Shut down for 6 months. So now he's the breadwinner of the house at the time. My mom can't get a job. Again, all ties together because of the religion. Um, so my dad started his own literal business because he wouldn't be hired. He wasn't able to get a job. Again, things that are out of his control. Similar to what we talked about earlier here in the States. We have that same issue here. The Black community and the Asian community and other communities
Yeah.
of minority.
Well, redlining back in like the mid 1900s. Like
Yeah,
where
yeah,
black people couldn't live certain areas, or financial institutions wouldn't give them loans.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one does it through corporations, and one does it through literal laws of the land,
Yeah.
which is in Iran. Both are wrong and both are cruel, but it was what it was, and my dad never wanted to leave Iran, and it got to a point that he was so defeated and so beaten down by the third time, that I remember this conversation vividly. I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and we're sitting around our coffee table. I even remember where we were in relation to the four of us. And my dad says, he pulled us in. He said, "We're having a meeting." We never had meetings, So it's like the fact that he had a
It's a big
meeting.
deal.
Yeah, when he
Yeah.
says we're having a meeting, you knew something was up.
Yeah.
And he tells us, we're leaving. He says we're going outside of Iran. He had never mentioned the United States, and truthfully, that was their third choice. It was their last choice of places to come. Australia and Canada being 1 and 2. Um, so again, to concise this a little bit, he said we're leaving Iran, and for me, again, 6-year-old, don't see the weight of that statement, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of, oh, okay, whatever. I finished 2 years in Iran in grade school, first and second grade. Um, then we had to get smuggled into Afghanistan and then into Pakistan, uh, and that's where we seeked asylum. And then we were granted a visa through Pakistan, the embassy there, and America wasn't even accepting people during our time, and within a week span they opened their literally they opened their gates, and they said, we're taking people in. If you want to go now. Luckily, and I say luckily because we were only there for 7 months in Pakistan. um, Nothing against Pakistan, but that wasn't our final destination. It was basically we were there on as a intermediary living, which
Mm,
was not
incredible.
fun. Yeah, we had nothing there. You know, we essentially left everything behind in Iran, and this is all me reflecting on this as an adult, right? Again, as a kid, it was just fun. Oh, fun road trip. You know, we're going to Pakistan and blah blah blah. Anyway, so luckily 7 months. My brother-in-law, however, wasn't so lucky. He was stuck in Pakistan for 3 years, right? And where he met my sister. But he had to get a job just to survive in Pakistan.
Wow.
Nobody went to Pakistan to work. The idea was go in, try to get your stuff done, get the visa you need, and go to the final destination.
Oh, well,
So
that's a journey. That's an incredible journey.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was my childhood, and then coming to America and living in the state of Maryland initially, and growing up, going to high school, and then uh, again, my parents did all of this. Their main reason was for my sister and I to have an education, to be able to have an equal opportunity to get an education. Um, and then for me to be careless in high school, got in one of the worst car accidents of my life in high school, just being careless, not giving a shit.
Hmm.
Almost died from that car accident. And, knock on wood, I actually survived it. My dog thought someone's at the door. And then, anyway, come out of that car accident in the summer, going still back to high school, missed out on team sports because of a severe head injury. Long story short, I say I was still careless, finished high school careless, going to community college careless. So this summer before starting community college, my dad he basically, and by this point my sister was married and living in California. He tells me, we're packing your stuff, you're getting shipped west in 1 week.
Wow.
Again, I'm 17, to give you a reference, and most people at
And how long? And how long were you there in that location?
in California. Oh, when I got shipped.
Yeah, before you got shipped. So you moved from overseas and you were on the East
Oh, in
Coast?
Maryland. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
from 95 to 2003. So
Okay.
95 to 03, I go through my middle and high school days,
Okay.
and some elementary.
So you have a friend base then, and that could be some culture shock. Now you're gonna move, right?
Right. But here's the funny thing about it. I still didn't care. Right. I
Mm,
was like, okay, ship me west. I was just, I don't know if if it was the result of the accident. I was just mentally like not prepared for adulting, and it was just, I didn't take it seriously. But blessing in disguise was that shipping to California, because when I came here, I went from feeling a sense of entitlement, feeling a sense of like, oh,
mm,
my parents will bail me out, right? None of
hmm.
that was there anymore.
Yeah.
So now I had to carry my own weight. And I would say between the ages of 18 and 19, I learned uh, the majority of my lessons that would carry me through my 20s, and make me learn what it really takes to be a better person. I started thinking less about myself, and I
Hmm.
started thinking more about these stories that I'm telling you. And I
That's
started
cool.
realizing that, damn, my parents sacrificed a whole lot to be here, and for me to be careless, it was just, I was disappointed in myself, to say the least.
Mhm.
But it led to me finishing, my degree from UC Davis in music, where my passion lied. And now have this podcast, and I'm
And
I bet.
you're meeting cool people, you know what I mean? And you,
That's right. That's right. Meeting
yeah,
people like yourself. Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, sorry to take all that airtime to mention it. It was just, it was a passion. I was passionate about it, and I needed to mention it as
No,
also.
I love you sharing it. I actually think that there's probably 4 episodes of material in the last 15 minutes that we need to focus on.
I 100%
Yeah,
agree, and I 100% want you back on here. But to button up this whole discussion on laziness, because that's what I faced, and whether it was mental laziness, mental health, many things can lead to the lack of motivation, lack of wanting to try things, wanting to succeed. Um, where do you, how do you present that now to the next generation? You being a father now, and
mm-hmm.
having a daughter, and um, have you had any instances where you're reminded that you know they may need a little bit of alignment in?
Yeah. We there was a situation recently where we got a report card that was mediocre, and
What's
um,
mediocre?
mediocre, mediocre, and
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
there's just a couple grades in there that were you know below par, and we're not, no one's looking for straight A's, but we're just
No, of
looking
course.
for, hey, I think for me is the alignment of that effort, the effort over time, right, and work, and your no disillusions on, like, hey, I can not do homework, I can watch some anime, I can hang out and talk to my friends,
Yeah.
and wait, I get a report card and I might be brought to tears, so
Yeah.
something doesn't fit there. So
Yeah.
I used it as an opportunity where we had a discussion, and little girl breaks down to tears and says, "But I did the best I could," and that was a discussion on, let's get realistic, like, if that's the best you could do, and you're being really honest with yourself and me, that's one thing. But if you feel that you could have maybe, like, separated, like, hey, here's recreation and here's not, and you got to pay your dues, um there are people, we all have known this, like people growing up, hey, that's an easy A, or they got easy A's, and I was never that student personally.
Mhm.
um However, hard work, going back to my dad's wisdom, back in the day, is like hard work pays off. So we just developed a priority, and it wasn't in any penalty way at all. It was just like, hey, you reap what you sow. That's I
Yeah.
think that's a term from the Bible. Reap what you sow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just let's be realistic. So I have to say that after that conversation, um, there was no banning, no nothing of TV. I mean, there was just, hey, just a good conversation of realism.
Yeah.
Um, on her own, she reached the merit roll, which is like, a step of like the normal student population, and you have the merit roll, and
Wow.
then every quarter after that, which has been 3, so 4 including the merit roll, but she's been on the honor roll,
Would you look at
and
that?
yeah,
Wow.
and I think there's a little bit of pride in that for her, and recognition, which a lot of people like. They want to be recognized, and a lot of people want to be included. Like, there might be some elite, identification or such, that I know that her school publishes who's in the merit and honor roll. So I think maybe there's some psychology there as far as the kids figured out, hey, I want to get on that list, and I
Yeah.
can't fake my way to it, right? You can't,
Yeah.
Kobe can't be a fake, right? So the kid can't be a fake, and have a
It's
dumpster fire of a report card, and yet, like, represent it. It's not.
right. Right.
So
It's
so
yeah.
so I think, just to loop it up, it's like, my priorities are different. I'm older. I got gray hair, and I'm like, I want to have fun. I want the kid to have fun. I want to keep things calm and collective. I want to learn from my mistakes still in my old age, and not reflect on the past unless I can grow from it. And I really want to help people out, and I want to help out not only my family but friends and loved ones to not that I'm an example, because hell, the road I've walked has been paved with not the smoothest surface.
Right, right.
Yeah,
But
I just
many have
yeah
many can share that with you, right? Many can agree that they haven't either.
yeah
My dog is scratching the door.
I love it.
But it's great though that your daughter saw something in that and it motivated her, which is
Yeah,
the key here is that motivation. She was able to step it up, whether it was that recognition from the school, uh, or a combination of that and what you told her. It's
I'd like to think that it's on her own, but who knows? It's just you know um no one said, hey, you better pull better grades or else, right?
right, right.
But
But
it's
there's this,
like,
but there was a. You're right that it's on her own, right?
mhm,
And because she ultimately had to do the work,
yeah,
but it was there was a inspiration at some point during that talk, or
I think
maybe,
so.
and
I
during
think,
maybe even when she realized that that wasn't her best, right? She realized that, oh, I can do better, and that was motivating, right? And that creates focus, that creates the
yeah.
energy needed to get it done right. Now, to wrap things up, because that's a good place, I think, to bring this idea of laziness and lack thereof to a close. I saw those two nice guitars you got over there, man. I know about it, but why don't you share with the audience what turned you on to guitar and the dedication you needed to learn
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So when I was younger, my dad is and was a fan of classical music.
Yeah.
And so, I was interested in music at a young age, and he said, "Hey, you should play the violin." And I'm like,
Oh.
"Okay, I'll play the violin." I played the violin for 9 years. So when I
Oh,
was
really?
younger, yeah, I
Wow.
played for a long time, and um, I played in some concerts, and you know, it's it was good, but it wasn't the instrument I really wanted to play. I was in a techno band in high school,
Really?
and I played a couple instruments,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I found my recording the other day, and I was like, oh man, I gotta make sure I have this digitally, to keep it. But
You got to share that with me, man.
oh man, that's different. That's a different show. But so then when I moved to Southern California in the early 90s, I was like, I didn't know a lot of people down there, and I was getting my career going. I said, hey, I'm going to go buy an acoustic guitar and take some lessons. I got connected to an ex rock star from the 80s that taught guitar on the side, and we're
Wow.
still friends today. And he had a video on MTV and some hit songs,
No
and
way.
yeah, and there was a lot of respect there. And so we developed a friendship, and I took lessons from him for over 20 years.
There you go.
And so I learned a lot about music and life, and it was good. It was a good relationship. So, I see some similarities in us where, hey, now I'm on the piano, and it's there's a lot of fun with it, and there's a lot of it turns into something bigger. But yeah, I love the guitar, and I love having music in my life. I wish others in my house did as well.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, as you know, I love music, and that's a cool story, by the way, that your guitar teacher was on MTV. Sorry to disappoint, I was not on MTV.
Yet, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's, I mean, yeah, music, the discipline it takes, man. I mean, it's a testament to this whole discussion. You found a passion for it. I mean, you recognized it while playing another instrument, right? Or maybe you knew about it even before that, before the violin.
yeah.
But um, you dedicate 20 years to it, and one thing we haven't done yet is have a jam sesh, like you playing the guitar and me playing the piano.
We'll
Um,
have to do that sometime. That's a
or
different
you
show
play the
too.
piano. Yeah, 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 yeah. We'll go live, right? but um,
Cool.
but hey, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me and discuss this topic. I'm very excited about your pool and when it all comes to a conclusion. And once COVID is at bay, I'm gonna jump in that pool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks for your time, and thank you for sharing your story too.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This was episode 9 of Fumble Podcast with Scott, the man of the hour. All right, thank you.
Much love.
Together we'll purify the mind and have a good time. I'll showcase your very best on fun.